Hello and welcome to La Mesa, the City of San Antonio's new series featuring San Antonians in a roundtable setting to discuss a topic at hand. My name is Krystal Jones and I am the director of the City of San Antonio's Department of Arts and Culture, and I am really thrilled to be here today with some exciting panelists to talk about a really important topic for our city. Public art in San Antonio is really important to our community and integral to who we are as a city. It really helps our city shine when it comes to standing out against other cities and other international cities. It also is an economic driver, not only investing in our creative economy, but bringing visitors and even residents to the area to start new businesses. I also want to say that public art is just simply fun. I mean, who doesn't like to go out and see art that's for them and it's for all, because public art is accessible to all. And that's what San Antonio is about, making sure that everybody feels welcomed and making sure that they feel like they belong. So today, to help us start talking about this topic and getting really in depth, I have a dynamite panel here that we're going to be tapping into for their expertise and also just to hear about what they enjoy about public art. So first I'm going to introduce to my left here, artist Bill Fitzgibbons. Thank you for joining us today, Bill.
My pleasure. It's an honor being here.
Thank you. And we also have gallerist Maria Williams with us.
Nice to be here. Thank you.
We have artist Montoya.
Hi, everybody.
And we also have artist Rhys Munro.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Well,
Happy to be here. Yeah.
Well, we are really excited to talk about this today, so I'm going to jump right into it. And what I'd really like to know from everybody is how you were introduced to public art and what it means to you.
Well, the first time I saw a contemporary public art piece, I was in high school. And I grew up in Memphis, and Martin Luther King was assassinated there. And the city commissioned Richard Hunt out of Chicago to do a memorial that was erected downtown. And when I went to see it for the first time, I was just knocked out because it wasn't some statue out of bronze. It was a very large abstract piece that almost had the feeling of a mountaintop, and I looked at that and I said, oh my God, this just has an incredible energy brought to this space. And so that was one of my first experiences with contemporary public art.
I really can't remember the first time I saw a public art piece that moved me. I have a little different experience because I'm not an artist, but I just took notice of the need for advocacy, and that's how I got involved with public arts.
Mm-hmm. And an advocate you are for our community. Thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
How about Krys?
Largely graffiti, seeing a lot of graffiti artists in my younger teens in the city creating these really amazing works of art that used letter, and they, the way that they were able to express themselves, like looking at the history of where graffiti came from with the NYC subway trains and like just the whole culture behind it. Later on, of course, I started appreciating more hometown public artists who would create, who have mosaics or murals that were more culturally based here. So, yeah.
That's wonderful, and I hope by people seeing this show, they'll really find that we do have so many incredible artists, including sitting at this table, that are represented in our public art program. So I'm really excited for people to learn about that. Rhys, how about you?
My first, my most memorable, I think, for public art was, I should say I'm from Metro Detroit, and it's called the Heidelberg Project, and it's a big house on the east side of Detroit. And this is an area that never quite revitalized from race riots and things of that nature, kind of a rundown area. And a local artist named Tyree Guyton used the help of children from the local community to create this project. And it was just sort of like this pop of color and vibrance and positivity in an area of town that kind of had a bad rap. So that one, probably the most memorable for me.
That really speaks to the fact that public art can provide a healing space for communities and also placemaking, revitalizing community, and I think that's so powerful, and I can't wait for people to even learn about public art across our country, because I think it's important that we know what's happening across the country and internationally in public art so that we know how that we can be part of that narrative. I think the next question I'd like to focus on, and this could be, any one of you, how would you describe the San Antonio art scene to an outsider?
I've lived in several cities across the country, and one of the things that made us fall in love with San Antonio was that the artist community here is very self-supporting. They help each other out. They have exhibitions in their studios for other artists, and instead of it being real competitive, going against each other, they're very generous in helping each other. And to me, that's a hallmark of the artists here in San Antonio.
I think that's a great point, because I think that's also San Antonio, as you mentioned, just in the arts community helping each other, but I feel like San Antonio as a community, we all tend to help out and show compassion, and I think that's why I really love living here. Of course, I love the arts community, but that's what really drew me here. It feels like home, even if it might not be your original home. Maria, did you want to share how you would describe San Antonio's art scene?
Vibrant. Vibrant and busy. I'm learning more about the individual artist. Like, I'm thrilled to meet all three of you, but I'm fangirl, but I think it's getting better. I agree that the artists are helpful with one another. The community is a beautiful community of artists, so I agree.
Everyone is very in touch with everyone else and what they're doing, so it's very connected in that way, and I guess that can be said for most, like, maybe art scenes, but here it really seems like there's a real personable element to it.
Yeah, overall, I would say it's very large and diverse, and definitely very supportive community. For as large as it is, so much support from the artists, and it's something that maybe I try not to take for granted, and I wonder, is it like this in other cities? Because this is the city that I'm part of as far as the art scene, and I hope it's like that in other cities, but I'm not sure if that's what makes it, unique here. It doesn't feel so cutthroat and competitive. It really feels like a supportive situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely feel that, and I know that, you've all been so supportive of artists, and Maria is supporting artists. Bill has many artists that he's helping out, especially emerging artists. So we thank you for your work and being part of that community and really helping foster the next generation of artists, because we have so many talented people that are living in our city that are our residents, neighbors, and co-workers, friends. It's so interesting how even sometimes in a conversation I'll be talking to someone who's not involved in the arts community, but I find out they are an artist. They just have never shown their work, and it's like, get out there, let's do this. So thank you for your work in that. I'm really excited about the next question because I'm inspired by all of you here, but I want to know what artists have inspired you?
Well, I'm really inspired by architecture and buildings, and there's a couple architects in particular that I'm inspired by. Both of them are from Mexico. One of them is Luis Barragan, who's a modernist, and the other one is Tatiana Bilbao, and she's a contemporary architect, and I'm very inspired by the minimalistic aspect of their work and the use of light and shadow and shape and form.
Well, I love that because, it really speaks to how inspiration comes from all places, not just specifically your genre, but you're inspired even just walking around a city and seeing architecture.
Right, and that's exactly what inspires me, especially traveling. I'm looking up most of the time at the buildings and the cityscape.
That's wonderful. How about Krys? What artists have you been inspired by?
Many throughout, the spectrum of going back to Caravaggio, Bernini, sculpture, coming into modern artists, from graffiti artists, Keith Haring, Basquiat, Andy Warhol.
Well, and I think we need to have a quiz for all the audience members about all these names of artists, and I think that would be a great little follow-up of who has been mentioned and have you done your research.
Oh, and also local artists.
Yeah.
I would say you know, like there were a graffiti crew here, and they used to do amazing work, you know, back in the early 2000s. And it was, you know, Suffer. You might know who Suffer is. You know Suffer. And so Demise and Inks, and that was a big inspiration to me. I would see their stuff like on St. Mary's. I went to Breckenridge High School, so I would see their stuff around the tracks, and I mean these huge murals. And I just had never seen anything like that, you know. So just seeing the forms and the color and even, you know, the photorealism, I was like, wow, this is like amazing, because it puts art in the space of the community.
How you talked about being inspired at a young age, I think that's what really all of you are doing right now, is inspiring the youth. So thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Maria, how about you?
Ooh, let's see. Frank Frazier, Charles White, ROMAIRE BEARDEN. I absolutely love his work. And then, yes, there are a lot of artists here in San Antonio that blow me away with their work. And so they all inspire me.
Well, going back to when I first got serious about making art, Joseph Beuys was somebody that influenced me, and his concept of social sculpture and expanding the definition of what art is, whether it's through installation or other activities, as well as ISAMU Noguchi, who did a lot of, you know, single pieces of sculpture, but also participated in everything from courtyards to landscape architecture. He designed a sculpture park in Israel that is in itself a artwork. I love that you're talking about how they inspired you in the direction that you went, and that really leads straight into my next question, and I know that this would be for the artist among us here. I really want to know how you took the leap from being a studio artist to a public artist, so anybody who would like to talk about your evolution from either just being in the educational space to being a public artist, or being a studio artist, or really just making that leap to public art.
When I saw graffiti, it was very, of course, inspiring for me, but there wasn't a lot of exposure to the arts and the possibility for young people to see art and to expand their consciousness into another realm of possibility is a very important thing for me. The transition for me started there, basically, you know, doing stuff in the community, and then later on, as I gained traction, I started crossing over into more gallery oriented spaces, and then even, you know, museum spaces.
I love that. I love that idea of giving back, because that's what so many of our artists do. They give back to the community. They give their full selves just for our community. And I know, Bill, your piece, I mean, even when you drive right into San Antonio, that's the first thing you see. Many people in the skyline see Bill's pieces. So how about your transition from a studio artist to a public artist?
Well, I wouldn't say it's a full transition, because I do both, but the reason why I got involved in public art was when I started incorporating light systems into my sculptures, whether it was neon or fluorescent at the time. It quickly evolved to, well, I can put this outside and you can see it at night. It's not just for, you know, inside of a gallery that's all lit up. And so when I first did some of my outdoor pieces, all of a sudden, like you were saying, all of a sudden thousands of people see it on a daily basis, where if you have a show in a gallery, you are, you know, maybe a few hundred people. But when you're starting to do public art, you are also now welcoming the community into your artwork, and hopefully there's a positive experience for those that experience the artwork.
I absolutely love that, because that also has me transitioning over here to Rhys with your pieces, because you've involved the community in your work. I have to give a plug on Get Creative San Antonio. But when I look at your profile, you have that stunning piece as your main portrait for your profile. So I'd really like to hear about how you dove into public art and what it means to you.
Right. So mine really was community based as far as how I got involved. around 2016, I was an art student at UTSA, and that's when I really started taking, my studio practice seriously. And I started volunteering with Untitled Culture Arts Center over on the west side. And I show up, what can I help with? They'd say, okay, paint this bird on this mural. So I just kind of started showing up to projects, and they couldn't get rid of me, So it started off just strictly volunteering, and then volunteering working with the kids, teaching art workshops over that summer of 2016. And then, next thing I'm assistant artist and then lead artist. So it kind of just progressed like that. But it really was just volunteering and getting to know the community better. And I learned a lot more about San Antonio in that aspect. And it definitely felt more like home after doing that. I just felt so a part of it, and not so much like an outsider anymore after I started volunteering with them.
Well, I mean, you talk about creating spaces too and people showing up. I am going to go a little off script because I'm going to add one question for you, Maria, because you do create spaces for artists, and I want to know about when you started your initiative, the Art of Four, and your gallery space. What year was that? And
2019.
Okay, wonderful.
I started the Art of Four in 2019. I just wanted to make sure that emerging artists got their just due, right, to be seen and in the exposure and the opportunity. And then somehow or another, I ended up with a gallery. And yes, that space, and as everyone knows, my space is particularly for African American artists. But I welcome every type of artist, every race, every creed to come into the gallery and have shows, which we have recently been doing. So yes, it's important to create space. It's important. I love what you said about the children, because we're developing classes that we can invite the public to participate in, especially in our area. We are on the east side in Government Hill, so we're talking about accessibility. So I want to make sure that the art is accessible to these children. So anyone who will listen, I'll say, no, bring children in. And people are always quick to say, you don't want my child in. But children react differently. I'm sure all of you know this, to art.
Yes.
So when they come in, they might have been bouncing on the walls and in the car, but when they come in, they're just taken by the art. And so I think it's important to have those spaces. Again, for the accessibility for people to really be able to come in and see the art. And those are neighborhoods and people who don't usually get to experience that.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that work again. I'm going to ask the next question now. What has been the most surprising thing about being involved in public art? And I know, Maria, you sit on our Arts Commission, so you're seeing the public art as it evolves. But what has been one of the most surprising things about being involved in this practice?
Challenges just on a nuts and bolts end of, working on a project, definitely navigating weather, unpredictable weather. It's always been. And then, of course, you're thinking deadline, and then you're thinking budget, and you're thinking all those things when, you have a week of rain and you're painting on site or, installing.
A lot of the challenges are similar to being a general contractor. I mean, if you're doing a piece on a bridge, you have to negotiate things like, oh, we have to block this lane of traffic. How do we do that? Or, oh, there's not electricity that's supposed to be here. Or how are we going to get the proper circuits here? So there's a lot of challenges that you don't have in, say, a gallery or a museum installation. But it's one of the things that also attracts me to it, because, like, I did a fire station in Anchorage, and I started off with the firemen being very unhappy that money was going for contemporary art when they could maybe buy some hoses or new uniforms. And so I met with the firemen and asked them what one of the most difficult things is about their profession. And they said two things. One, is getting to a fire 10 minutes late and somebody has lost their life. Or one of our brothers loses their life in a fire. And so I said, okay, what if I did a piece that was kind of respecting that, almost like an altar memorial inside your courtyard? And they go, oh, that would be cool. And I said, and let's put in the base of the sculpture a time capsule, and you write to the future generations. It will be dug up in 50 years, whatever you want to say to the future, your grandkids or whatever. And all of a sudden, they became the biggest advocates I've ever had for a public art piece. So those are the kind of things I love about public art.
That's beautiful. That really speaks about the role of building community through public art and the role that artists play. Like you said, problem solving, creative problem solving, navigating surprises, but also you're the mediators, liaison, and also community builders. So you're just a lot of things all wrapped into one.
I actually, what Bill was saying, that's a great story. I think that's the ultimate challenge is respecting the community around and having your artwork reflect the people and empower them and make them appreciate it and love it and live with it. It's the ultimate challenge, you know, because it's gonna, you know, God willing, it'll be there a while.
Moving on to the next question, Maria, I'd like to understand what skills or resources have been really helpful to you in your pursuits.
The artist. that is my biggest resource because I'm not an artist. And when I came into the industry, I was brand new, right, with the advocating. So arts and culture has been a big help. That's how I learned about registering the artist. And I think that's my biggest, you know, and then when I need help, y'all haven't hung up on me, so. You know, I think arts and culture, and then artists who share the knowledge with me that I can share with my artist also.
For me, was working in the museum world and also in the galleries. That helped me to kind of understand how work is presented and what constitutes like a utilization of the space that it's in. I was able to work at the McNay and at SAMA doing some installation work, so that's helped me as a resource, definitely. You get to handle these artworks firsthand and really kind of grasping the brevity of the history behind them and the artists from different time periods that there's just something about seeing the work in person.
I think we're so fortunate to see those things in life in person and not just on social media. But speaking of social media, I do want to move on to how social media has impacted or influenced your work. We've talked about digital skills, but how does social media really incorporate it into the work that you do?
I find it real inspiring. You know, every day I look at it and I'll see somebody's making this or somebody's making that, and sometimes, you know, as an artist you have a lot of ideas all the time, and which one do you follow through with, and you second guess this, and then you look at Instagram and you see somebody doing something and you say, okay, I just got to do it, look, you know, like they're doing it. Yeah, it's
a tremendous marketing tool, but it's a two-way street. Not only a way to get your work out there, but for you to see other people's work, and it becomes something that didn't exist, you know, 30 years ago. Through social media, you can literally have thousands of people seeing your work online. So, and you can see thousands of people. So I agree.
I love seeing these trends where these the artists are, you know, just showing the first, you know, the first little paint stroke to the final, you know, final product, and it's done in a way that is very marketing, definitely. But I love seeing that behind the scenes. How was this created? Because that's really what influences me to say, you know, you're seeing the final product, but you really want to see what were the steps that it took, and you can see it in 30 seconds with a time-lapse video on social media. I mean, how empowering is that? So
people find the process, I think, just as interesting as, you know, maybe sometimes more interesting than, you know, than the final piece.
Yeah, put some little TikTok music on it and you're good to go. Well, I wanted to see, you know, we're talking about trends on social media, we're talking about digital trends, but what trends are you seeing here in the local arts community? And what are you excited about?
I don't know if it's necessarily a trend, because I think it's always been happening, but the formation of collectives I think is really exciting, and this sort of revitalizing the narrative and specific focus. You know, you have Motherland Gallery, and they, you know, are real hyper-focused on showing women artists, you know, which historically have been underrepresented. You've got Maria's Gallery, you know, Eye of the Beholder, focusing on, you said, African-American artists. Yes. The Mesa Collective, you know, very community-based, and yeah, I love the collectives. It's a real big community, but I love all the individual collectives that pop up and sort of re-energize the scene.
One of the things I think has a lot of potential is the merger of the UTSA University merging with the Southwest School of Art. The Southwest School of Art being absorbed by the university, it guaranteed the success in going forward with a historic campus where Southwest School of Art is, as well as having a downtown presence for the not only the studios but for galleries, and it's also allowed UTSA to maintain the program that the Southwest School had of high school artists or art students. And I think there's a lot of potential. I think it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I did a summer camp when I was a little girl there. So when I was just speaking to someone about this yesterday, and that they saved the School of Art. I loved that place. Yep. So I'm glad about that too. That is a big deal.
Well, I wonder how you think that San Antonio residents could be more involved or supportive of the art scene, if there's any advice that you would give to residents in San Antonio for doing so.
I would say go see art. Go to Second Saturday. Go to Bill's Gallery. Go to Maria's Gallery and buy art. And there's price ranges of all sorts for arts, from a $40 print, you know, to a commission of a large painting. But I think there's really something for everybody in this community, and not just for visual art, for music, local film, support the local creatives.
Well, even social media, just share that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, share it,
right,
share
yeah.
the post, like the post, get it out there, amplify the voice, because there is strength in numbers.
Right. That's why I love this. I think it's called Mural Ride Bike Tour.
Yes.
Yeah, those guys are great. They came around to the last project we did, Travis Park Church. Super supportive. Even while we're working, they're bringing people around on the bikes, and till this day, that same project, it's on on their tour, and they hashtag it and tag us in it, and people from out of town come and they sign up for that tour, and I think it's great that they do that.
Mm-hmm. In that spirit, why do you think it's important that the San Antonio community fosters and develop artists?
I think artists are your historians, really, because you're painting what's going on in your lifetime. So they are keeping track of where we are at that time. So I think artists are very important. All three of you. Like you said, you're still getting, hashtagged for a piece that you've already done in Travis. I think people need to recognize the importance of art. I think people just think art. You know what I mean? Some folks just go, they're artists. No, they're the keepers of our history. And so that's how I look at all artists.
There's endless subjects to be creating public art. Yeah. I wonder where you think the future of public art is headed in San Antonio.
I'm excited for it, honestly. I see us having a national footprint with cities like Philadelphia, LA, Miami, San Antonio.
Right. To be listed amongst those cities.
Right. I think
we're well on our way.
Absolutely.
If we're not already there.
If we're not already there, we're definitely well on our way. Yeah.
I'm excited personally because I see all of these projects that the city is contributing to and supporting artists with and bringing into the public space, and it's exciting to see that, so it can only get better,
I agree. I think with the new capital projects that are coming, this public art is not just going downtown. I mean, even for streets and drainage projects, which means every neighborhood, not just the downtown area, will be receiving public art. So going back to what you're saying about respecting this neighborhood and saying, okay, you're not next to the museums and the banks and everything, but we're putting it in your community.
Well, and I want to give credit where it's due. I know Bill was a huge advocate for that 1.5% as a part of the 2022 bond for public art. So thank you for your work, because it's, we do have to tell the story much more. We have to tell it continuously throughout the cycle of our public art process about why art is important, why it matters, so that when it comes to those decisions of where funding goes, art is just right there at the table with everybody else, because art is public safety. When you incorporate lighting, you're increasing public safety elements. Public art is mental health. It gets people out of their homes. It shows them that they matter. They're seeing representation. It's economic drivers. It's all of these things that is actual infrastructure investment, and public art is that infrastructure. So thank you for your work in that. And thank you for your work, Maria, on the Arts Commission. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
I didn't know you had a hand in that 1.5 mil, so
Thanks,
yeah,
Bill.
appreciate that.
You go, Bill.
Yeah.
This is the last question too, so we can. Well, I guess I will add one more question though. If you wanted anyone to go and find out more about the work that you do, where would you like them to go?
Best place to see my art is on Instagram.
My handle is artista_Montoya. That's my Instagram link, and you can also see my art at artistamontoya.com.
My best place is my website. It's billfitzgibbons.com.
And to learn more about the gallery, Instagram, and it's EOTB is our handle.
And if anyone would like to see information about all the public art that's in San Antonio, you can go to sanantonio.gov/arts or follow us on social at GetCreativeSA.